This is Inside Heavy. Believe it or not, it's been 30 years since the release of AC/DC's Let There Be Rock concert documentary, The Last Concert with Bon Scott. In celebration of that, Warner Brothers has re-released the concert on Blu-ray. They packaged it up with a lot of special extra features with expert commentary from musicians and journalists and a special booklet written by Anthony Bozza about the band. Anthony Bozza wrote a cool book entitled Why AC/DC Matters, and he is here with us right now at Inside Heavy to talk about AC/DC, so stay where you're at. Rock author Anthony Bozza joins us when we return.
Attention, all bands and merchandise vendors. Get international exposure for your bands or merchandise at InsideHeavy.com.
Hungry music fans.
Inside Heavy is one of the fastest growing metal news sites on the planet. The world is crawling all over Inside Heavy, and now for as low as $10 a month, they can see your band. So what are you waiting for? Go to InsideHeavy.com and start your ad campaign today. We've got the traffic. We'll put their eyes on you.
We are back with Anthony Bozza right here at Inside Heavy, the world's inside source to heavy metal and hard rock. Anthony Bozza on the phone with us. Great books, and we're going to talk about AC/DC. Welcome to Inside Heavy.
Thanks for having me, man.
Warner Brothers has just put out a classic live show that's been out, but they re-released it in Blu-ray and packaged it up real neat. And it's Let There Be Rock by AC/DC, 30-year anniversary. You wrote a book about AC/DC, but you also wrote the booklet. What can you tell us about the booklet that's inside this package?
Well, obviously I'm a giant AC/DC fan. I wrote a book called Why AC/DC Matters. And basically just as a rock critic, I was always, and first as a fan of theirs, and second as a rock critic, I always wondered why there weren't a lot of critics who included them in their best of lists and stuff like that. So I was lucky enough to have a publisher who let me write that book, and then Warner Brothers got in touch with me because of the book. The band was aware of the book. They actually let my publisher license the logo for the cover, which it never really happens. They're really protective of all that stuff. So they obviously liked what I had to say in there. So, the booklet is really just focuses on Bon Scott because this movie the concert in the movie was recorded like 2 months before his death. It's the band like at the peak of the Highway to Hell tour. They're just like a completely well-oiled machine, just really kicking butt and playing so well. I was just honored to be able to be a part of this reissue and just to be included as the person who got to write to sort of the tribute package to Bon Scott and to this historic concert. So, man, it was just a pleasure. It was just a wonderful thing to do.
With AC/DC, their first albums for me, there were flashes of brilliance in them, but they weren't quite hitting the nail right on the head. Dirty Deeds, Highway to Hell, they were swinging for the fences, and then Bon's death and Back in Black came along. The question has always been, what would Back in Black have been? Probably wouldn't have had that title, but what kind of album would that have been with Bon Scott? I don't think it would have been the same album. I'm not so sure they were quite the same band afterwards, but Brian Johnson made it his own. There's no doubt about that. But, what would AC/DC be like if they had moved forward and hadn't lost Bon, do you think?
I think, that's always like one of those impossible questions to answer. But, I mean, my favorite is the Bon Scott era. Not that I dislike Brian Johnson at all, but it is a different band. I think that because, in a weird way, I think that because Bon Scott died, they were actually able to go into the 80s and be more successful than they would have. Because Bon Scott's a real legend. And another reason why I was excited to write both of my book, Why AC/DC Matters, and this tribute booklet in the Let There Be Rock package was because I don't think, in the same way that the band doesn't get their due from the critics, I definitely don't think Bon gets his due. Like, you never see him in any kind of best rock singer list, ever. And, I mean, I put that guy up there with Robert Plant easily. Like, his range was amazing, and he could do so many different things with his voice that other singers couldn't do. He was also just a fantastic storyteller.
Right.
You know, he could really get inside of the characters he's portraying. Like, I mean, if you listen to like Night Prowler, or even like the kind of the person he is in Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, he's like a very scary man and very amazing in the way he delivers those vocals. And I don't think he gets credit for it. I think that type of a singer and that type of style way more suited to like the classic golden era 70s rock stuff and the kind of songs and stories that people wanted to hear. You know, in the 80s, things really changed. And I think having Brian Johnson, who's way more of a screecher and a more harder-edged, one-note kind of a singer, you know, his range is like just unbelievable, and nobody can do that. But he's got less sort of characters he can inhabit, I think, as a storyteller singer. But I think that was really suited for the 80s. And I think that AC/DC is really responsible for bringing a harder-edged hard rock sound and hard rock production to the airwaves here in America and making it commercially viable. You know, like produced Highway to Hell, and then in Back in Black and Upward stuff. You know, he really became the sound of commercial 80s radio, and got people used to hearing that stuff and wanting that stuff on the radio. I mean, without what AC/DC did, like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses would never have had a career and been on MTV and been, you know, like the top of the charts on radio and stuff like that. So I think that if Bon had stayed around, it would have been more of the other formula, and I think that, you know, that still would have been amazing. I don't think it would have defined the times as much as Back in Black did, because it really did change the sound of what was commercially viable.
Well, Back in Black, in my opinion, has always been, I think that's got to be number one best hard rock album of all time, because of the story of how it folded out, the drama in the band. That alone is a modern day miracle in the music business. But Dirty Deeds and you know, they're just that type of a band.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I love Highway to Hell. I love High Voltage. Powerage, one of the most underrated AC/DC records. Really good. You just can't go wrong, you know?
The lyrics also in the Bon Scott era were, for me, I think that, I mean, they were just dead on. And like, for instance, If You Want Blood, that's one of the greatest AC/DC songs. And Long Way to the Top. I mean, anyone who's in the music business, of which I'm not, but I could only imagine, those two songs are so true.
Yeah. Even Tired of Waiting Around to Be a Millionaire. That's a great one. Well, the thing that I love about Bon, that true outlaw. He was a true blue rock and roll icon like Jim Morrison. You know, he was the guy who they would he would just wander off after a show, you know, with a bottle of bourbon and he'd just show up on time the next day with like no shoes, no shirt, and, you know, with a total adventure, like gotten chased out of town by some guy's, you know, some girl's boyfriend and all that kind of stuff. Like, he was living it every day. And the truth of the matter is, you know, he might not have really aged. He might have destroyed his voice if he was going that way. He was already having like liver problems, and, you know, he was really living it. But yeah, that's why, I mean, a lot of the songs from his era really resonate, because I think they were pretty much, it was like his diary. You know, he was pretty much just telling you exactly how he lived. And I think that's why they're so great and they endure so well.
The re-released version of Let There Be Rock hit the stores June 7, 2011. This is such a classic concert which depicts AC/DC in all their glory. And for a limited time, you could be enrolled in a contest to win your very own free copy of Let There Be Rock. Go to InsideHeavy.com, subscribe to our blog, and you're entered. We'll let you know if you win. My thanks to Anthony Bozza, Rock Arthur, for joining us right here at Inside Heavy and giving us the scoop about AC/DC, his books, and the writing of the booklet, which is inside that box set. And especially to all of you listening and watching. Until next time, everybody, God bless. Take care.